Welcome, welcome, Jen Pacino. So glad to have you here today.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Yay! So, just a little bit about Jen. Jen is a wealth consciousness coach and prosperity priestess, amongst other things. And what's so amazing is that I am part of Jen's collaborative book project, Wealth Codes, coming out in August, coming out in a few weeks. I'm super excited. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. Jen is also a best-selling author of Sacred Medicine, which got me interested in wealth codes because when I bought that book, because my friend was in it and to support her, I had no idea the magic that could be within 280 pages. It's just unlike any kind of book I've ever read before. Like the exquisite magic that's in those pages is amazing. And so that's the similar kind of energy I feel with wealth codes too.
Thank you. Thank you for receiving it in that way because I take this work is my heart. And that was the best compliment I could ever hope for, is to take readers on that type of journey, that it really does open them up in that way. And so often it's hard to explain the things that we do, right? As
Oh yeah.
healers, as coaches, and so forth, because we're not using one modality. Like we've got
Mhm.
this toolbox.
Right.
But the one thing that I want to leave everybody with is those aha moments and the magic.
Hmm.
And the magic sometimes
Yeah.
is hard to understand or
Mhm.
explain or articulate what
Mhm.
it is you got out of the experience. You just know it shifted.
I completely get it. Yeah. And that's the thing is that, with one prior to this, the Sacred Medicine, uh, for me, I read a lot of books. I run a book club. And the difference is when you're just sort of being told something like these are the 10 steps of our spiritual awakening. And we get some story in that. To me, the difference is that you can really relate to these experiences because of the way that the publisher, Brave Healer, helps us as authors to create that richness of the experience. Like we can really connect with that. And then we're given this tool, and not only that tool, but also these amazing abundance of resources beyond that from these authors. So it's like if you really want to get in there, there's so much available. So yeah, I'm in. I'm so in. And today, as we're recording this, it's Lionsgate. It's 8/8 Lionsgate, which is super exciting too. And I'm just curious if there's anything for you that you feel is really, as we, roll into this Lionsgate and next year Lionsgate 8/8, what is significant to you about this date or about this sort of portal that we're in?
Well, this date is really a piece of me as a practitioner, as a priestess. This is an anniversary for me of when I took my spiritual name, which is Catfire. So if you see that in any of my writing or any of the circles, people may call me Catfire. And that came through the portal, through the Lionsgate portal, during a fire walk. And somebody snapped a picture of me, and there was a huge cat flame behind me, perfect shape of a cat, and the high priestess then anointed me with that name. And so this is a tender time for me because of those memories. Like I really take it to heart and celebrate myself during this time. But then what I do and help others walk through is this is the peak of the energy within the opening of this portal. And it is such a immaculate time to manifest and to
Mhm.
crush limitations.
Mhm.
And it is an opener of our intuition in ways that some people have never experienced. So if we're open to having new experiences and allowing that energy and that magic to come in and really like embrace it, I
Mhm.
think that it allows our senses to be activated even fuller. And
Mhm.
it helps us pull away the layers and the things that we no longer need, the things that
Mhm.
we've outgrown. And it gives us this like divine peak.
Mhm.
Like the Lionsgate is the peak, but then there's this divine peak visually, clairvoyantly, of what is there for us, what is our divine birthright,
Mhm.
what is there for our taking,
Mhm.
right? The dreams, the desires, all the things. And I think it shows these little, for me, it shows me these little visions and snippets
Mhm.
of the bigger, greater vision
Mhm.
and the passion and purpose that gets to go with that.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I love the way you also describe it as like immaculate. It's almost like you want that laser beam. Okay, well, like let fall away the blocks and the self-doubt and the all that stuff. Like let's just let it dissolve because this
Let it
is
dissolve.
it's here
Yes.
for you. Right. How beautiful to describe it that way. Thank you for that. And
Yeah,
I
thank
just
you.
really celebrate this sort of anniversary for you too. How cool.
Thank you.
So I'd love to hear a little more about like why this book, why wealth codes, and to me, when I mention it to some people, I think they typically go right to money, abundance, and yet I
Mhm.
know there's a richer experience than only the. I mean, it's
Yes.
part of the energy of everything, and it's a rich kind of diversity. So, what inspired you to create and co-create this particular book, Wealth Codes?
Well, it's been a part of my own journey, and I've seen my clients go through this journey too of having one area of their life completely rich and abundant. It could be their relationship or it could be their wallet, but then the other areas were so empty,
Hmm.
right? There was this feeling of lack or scarcity.
Hmm.
And in the midst of writing Sacred Medicine, this information started to download for me. And it downloaded in a very different way than I would have personally put it together. Like I've been doing the work for such a long time. But what came through specifically is how these different areas of life actually go with one of the sacred elements. So the book is divided, as you know, into 5 categories of life. And I have placed an element with that to bring in that sacredness, and it helps bring in soul alignment. So money is not everything. I know lots of people that are wealthy. I've worked with celebrities. I was a professional dancer. I've been on set. I've been a celebrity massage therapist. I've worked with a variety of wealthy people
Hmm.
that were really unhappy,
Yeah.
dissatisfied,
Hmm.
in depression and anxiety and all of the things. They had everything externally,
Hmm.
but internally there was still something missing.
Yeah.
And then you see people that are so in love, but they're like struggling financially. So
Hmm.
this book is an invitation into these 5 areas, which are money, relationships, freedom, vitality, that energetics of everything, and then spirituality.
Hmm.
And within those 5 categories, we can take in other directions, but I feel those go with the 5 elements. And if we pool those together, it brings in this feeling of wholeness.
Hmm.
Like, in we're always teeter tottering a little bit, but if we can keep those more in balance,
Right.
then we feel whole, we feel satisfied, we feel we're aligned in a place of passion and purpose.
Right, right. I sort of see like these cups and like what if we can sort of feel that richness and that fullness with each cup with these 5
Exactly.
areas. Yeah, it doesn't have to be
Exactly. And
either
one can
or.
overflow
Hmm.
to the others. And that's
Right.
the part that's so beautiful. I think some people think when they go too much on one side, right? They go too much into the spirituality side, then they might think that money is bad, right? Some of us have those old beliefs that
Yes.
we're unprogramming now.
Right.
And what I want people to understand is that they can be abundant in all these things. And when money comes into play and the other pieces of our life are in soul alignment, we
Hmm.
do really incredible things with that money. And we become
Right.
an attractor of it. So I
Hmm.
want people to attract the money. Money's a piece of it, of course, and that's what most of if people want to increase their finances. But I
Right.
want people to increase their finances and be in soul alignment and experience passion and purpose and love and freedom of time, freedom of location, personal freedom, all of the things. Like you
Hmm.
get to have it all. So really
Right.
in a nutshell, it's like let's stop sacrificing joy for success
Yes.
and
Full programming. Hmm.
consciously choose to have it all.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting because I think of old programming, new programming. Like what if that programming it's not even fully yours? It's like coming from society, it's coming
So
from this
much.
idea of competition, it's coming from this idea of like, this sort of tier. It's just old.
It's
So,
society, it's coming through our generational
yeah.
lines, it's coming from our teachers and people
Mhm.
that we've looked up to, and you should
Exactly.
be doing this, you should not be doing that.
Right.
And I think the more we come into soul alignment, you
Yes.
get to consciously choose what is right for you.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's not necessarily what others are saying is right for you,
Mhm.
but coming into that space of like that what if and that trust, like,
Yes.
I'm divinely made for this. I have a story I got to tell you that I think might really relate. You might really love. This is like, I love this so much. I don't I wish I had it with me right now, but so I love this one particular company, this girl, Dina Daigle, and she makes the most amazing, like magical, just spiritually infused candles and
Mm,
rollers and different things. And I got one of her subscription boxes. And so I got this money candle and like a money kind of ritual candle. I was like, that's fun. There's like little pieces of money kind of in it. She puts crystals in and all sorts of stuff and flowers, and they smell amazing. And I also got like an abundance roller at 2 different times. And what's so interesting is I had the roller, and within 2 days of one another, I dropped the roller and it broke. And I was so sad because it was like smelled so good. And then, like, the next day, the box with the candle arrived, and there were other candles. And that money candle, the glass was broken. And
interesting.
at first, I was like, oh no, is this bad? I was like, whoa, I was like, no, no. You know what? You're gonna love this. Is I feel like something broke with my old money mindsets.
I
And
love
then
it.
in the next kind of like week or two since that happened, I've had certain clients come in for a new program that I'm running. I've been gifted things.
Yeah. And that's so beautiful. It reminds me of my priestess days because when something would break and I was in priestess training, we would all like just proclaim. We would be like, breakthrough, instead of focusing on like, oh, my favorite stone just broke. No, it was like breakthrough. You're done
Yes,
with this now. It's
yes,
time to move forward, move on. Yes.
exactly. It just really gives me some chills. Um, so if I were, if I were coming and going to, purchase wealth codes, like, what would you sort of say to, what kind of journey am I going on? Like, what should I sort of expect in a way? I know we sort of like are always
Oh,
open.
I love this question. And there's not the perfect answer for it. I would
Yeah,
say expect the unexpected.
that's so
The,
true.
the people that I want to read are people that are willing to go on a journey, that are willing to stretch through their own edges,
Mhm.
and that might like some surprises. Because so often when we do the work that really works, you sign up for one reason or you buy the book for a particular reason, but then what you get at the end is so much richer. And that's not something that I can tell you because it depends what life experiences they've had, what
Mhm.
they're willing to shed, what they're willing to claim.
Mhm.
Like I think it's so much it's what we're willing to surrender, but so much it's are you willing to receive?
Mhm.
And when you crack that cover, I think if you could crack it and know I'm ready for abundance, I'm ready for blessings,
Mhm.
I'm ready to experience life more fully,
Mhm.
and then release the expectation
Yes.
of it having to look or be a certain way because that's so much that's the power of manifesting. You
Mhm.
make
Mhm.
your intention but then you release it because when we hang on so tight of what we think things are supposed to look like,
Right.
we change the outcome.
Yes.
And so often there's something bigger and greater waiting for us, but because we're like, oh, it needs to be this way and that way, and he needs to be this tall, and we
Yes.
stop ourselves from the greatness that wants to come into our lives as magnifiers of abundance, of
Mhm.
attractors and magnets of
Mhm.
abundance. It's kind of
Right.
like, no, this would be
Exactly.
good enough. I'd be happy if this happened.
Right.
So I would just tell people, say yes,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
so much more.
It's interesting you say that because I feel like an opportunity came into my arena, and I feel it's interesting you mentioned this right now because I feel really attached to it. It's something I've been wanting to do, but it's interesting because if it doesn't happen, I also recognize that maybe it is a diversion from where
Yeah.
my soul actually wants to be, and so I'm like, you know what? It takes the pressure off, and it takes, if I'm so like, oh, I need this, and I feel I'm giving over my power to those who might hire me for the opportunity, and it takes my power away. But when I stay in that arena of choice, and it will, sort of manifest the way it's meant to, then it's just way more empowering, and I can relax a little bit more. Just
Yeah, you
give
can
yourself.
relax into it. And you also, when you relax into it, you're inviting in what is best for your evolution, for your
Absolutely.
highest human potential.
Hmm.
And I feel, because I've done it both ways, I came from corporate America background and everything was very linear, the way that I
Yes.
used to do things. And now I don't do anything very linear. I
Yeah.
allow the movement and the flexibility, because when I set a specific goal, I want this thing by this date,
Hmm.
so often I'm cutting my nose off to spite my face,
Absolutely.
right?
Right. Right.
So if I
Hmm.
just say it would be nice to have this, and it'd be, I'm open to more.
Right.
What else
Yeah.
do you have planned for me? Because your soul knows what your soul knows.
Hmm.
And sometimes we get the little snippets, the
Hmm.
little divine clues, but we don't know the bigger, grander vision all the time.
Hmm.
And I
Absolutely.
and I think it's great that we don't, because
Mhm.
it would seem too big and we'd probably chicken out, right?
For
But
sure.
if we allow that flexibility and we stop trying to hold on so tight that we have to be in control and driving, you're not
Hmm.
in control anyways,
Right.
right? So if we could just
Hmm.
release the wheel and let it be on cruise control.
Hmm. Well, how do you feel for someone, since you've been in the corporate arena and it is so linear, how do you feel like someone could infuse a bit more of that, intuitive space into their day, into their life, into their world? And I ask that in a sense because what I've noticed is, when I get those downloads and I say yes to them, and I'm flexible with it, and I'm not exactly sure how it's supposed to happen, and yet I know when I'm given that download, it's meant for me. Same
Hmm.
thing happens when I'm doing an intuitive reading and something shows up that someone's been thinking of for years, like working with a women's shelter, and they're like, oh my gosh, I've been thinking of doing that for 4 years. It's like, well,
Yeah.
clearly you're being shown like this is your time. When we say yes to those intuitive hits, we can really move quantum leap like so quickly and
Yes.
beautifully and sort of like a dance. And yet, so how can we sort of weave that in if we are like in that corporate space?
I don't believe the space is what determines it. It's the trust.
Hmm.
Because I believe everybody has spiritual gifts. I believe everybody is intuitive. I
Yeah,
also believe most people don't listen,
agreed.
right?
Yeah.
So I think if you would just pay attention and listen, then things happen as they will. And so often it gets rid of all the detours that we take when we're trying to stay up in our head.
It's
The
less
other thing
work,
that
it's
it
less
does,
exhausting.
right? It's exhausting.
It's less adrenal fatigue, less adrenal
Yes.
fatigue too. Yeah.
And so many people are in adrenal fatigue or
Mhm.
depression or high anxiety, high stress,
Mhm.
whether corporate or running your own business as an entrepreneur. I see it in both arenas because I work
Yes.
with both. Um, a lot of people are corporate mystics. They just hide it, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah,
that's
because they
okay.
feel safe. Yeah.
It's okay. It feels safe. You do whatever is to your comfort zone.
Mhm.
But intuition, to me, that is the key to all things. If you listen, you get more done in less time. Your energy is more vibrant. You wake up rested instead of waking up exhausted,
Mhm.
because you're not fighting against your divine essence, which to me is like somebody treading water, fighting against the water, trying to go upstream.
Mhm.
You're still moving,
Mhm.
but you're working so hard to get
Mhm.
to where you're going.
Mhm.
And those divine clues, they can be very little, and everybody
Yes.
gets them. It could be, grab this thing off your dining room table before you leave the house. You don't
Mhm.
listen, you don't do it. You get to a meeting and then somebody asks you about your book and you don't have it. It's those
Yes.
little things that have these big impacts.
Mhm. It's opportunities.
It's
Mhm.
opportunities. I think it's like it's gifts from whatever you want to say, the highest vibration of light, heaven, whatever. It's making life easier if and when we listen.
Yes.
And to me, it happens all day long.
It does.
It's
Preach.
like,
I mean, it just is so true. Right.
yes,
Yeah.
but we get in our busyness, we go in our head. The
Mhm.
more in your head you go, I think the harder it is for you to hear those clues.
Yes.
So when you get here and anxiety as at peak, I would
Mhm.
just tell people to invite yourself to turn the radio station, turn the dial.
Yeah.
That's not
Well,
working for you. Come back down into self.
it literally is, because, I see you pointing towards the prefrontal cortex, and
Hmm.
this part of our brain that we use most of the day, in a sense, is the one that is literally designed as like binary to debate. It's going to give you both sides of the coin, so to speak. It's going to be left and right. And so when we get sort of stuck in that area, like that toolbox right there, then we can get into the overthinking and the anxiety, because it can only do so much. Like the balance happens
Yeah,
when you literally do tune in more to like the pineal gland, to that more intuitive space
exactly.
that you can almost envision your brain lighting up. So yeah, even if you're a visual person, you picture like tuning the radio station over, or
It
doing
is.
something to get more into your body, or listening to, well, where am I feeling tension in my neck or my shoulders? And then also listening to those things that some people will say, like, nah, that can't be. Like they'll see a number, or they'll see a license plate, and they're like, oh, they'll kind of dismiss it.
Hmm.
Sometimes, like, to me, in the spirit world, we're given things that seem really like it's very less dense, in this
Hmm.
sort of mystical space, and we are very dense in these three dimensions. And so for us to be reached, sometimes we're given something really sort of tangible. Like one time I was channel writing for information, and I was given like a hamburger. I'm like, well, why would I be given a hamburger? I should be given some like amazing vision. So I didn't dismiss it. I wasn't like, that's just my brain. I just kept going, like, well, why is it a hamburger? And it was communicating with my grandmother, and she was trying to show me then like her dining room table and
Mm.
who was there. It's like all of our family, and the message was surrounding family and connection, but she had to give me that to help me get there.
But that's the thing, is it's learning a new language, and
Hmm.
it is in the beginning. It takes some discernment,
Hmm.
right? Like when I was a massage therapist and working with celebrities, I might get from my spirit guides or my divine clues. It might say something like yank their arm. Well, a celebrity probably wouldn't like that very much if I just came in and yanked the arm.
Right.
But what that meant was traction the arm,
Yes.
right? So you have to be able to use discernment. And when you're getting used to trusting, sometimes things sound weird and odd. And so then you do raise an eyebrow and go, what the heck? That can't be right. But you have to play with it and learn it. And it's okay to ask confirming questions. And I wish that newer people on this path, if you take anything out of this about trusting your intuition, please know that you get to ask questions. If it doesn't make sense,
Oh yeah.
ask for
all,
more.
all the time,
And
yeah.
it will always show up. Think of like
Mhm.
a toddler asking why and how.
Right.
They're not shy to ask. Well,
Mhm.
we're learning, and it's a constant evolution of self and developing of your spiritual gifts, or at least I hope it is for you, because it gets better and better and better, easier and easier and easier.
Mhm.
But you have to be willing to be a student.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's exactly it. It's like, well, tell me more. Tell me more about this. Can you show me some more? What am I meant to know from this? And that's where it's almost like another layer can open. It's like another level of opening to drop that information in.
Right. And it's just, I mean, it's been so beautiful hearing the stories of other people, and I know you have these stories as well. When people start trusting that intuition, it saves people from car accidents, from
Yes,
emergency situations.
mhm,
So
it
if you
does.
just listen and trust, and sometimes it's not a voice, and some people think that it has to be like this, do that.
Right.
Sometimes it's a feeling or a knowing,
Mhm.
or just you know what you know, but you don't have any clue how you know it. Trust
Right.
that too.
It literally just happened to me yesterday, because we were gifted again this classic Jaguar. It's like this
Thank you,
Jaguar.
abundance.
Yeah, I
Beautiful.
know, right? Yeah. This yellow, primrose yellow Jaguar. And anyway, so my husband met me at this pool, and when we were coming home, I was in front of him with our daughter, and he and my son were behind us. And there's this one little turn where people can make a U-turn, or you can also take your right. And this is exactly it. I stopped there, and I was like, I need to take a breath here. I need to take a
Mhm.
moment here. And I actually thought about it showed me in my mind, that U-turn. And then I went, but I was really watching him. And literally he turned, and like right after he turned came the
Mm,
car that was going to make the U-turn. And I can guarantee you, we were like a breath away from that being
exactly.
just because those people, you know how it is. And so it's just so true. I could have just denied it and said, "Oh, he's fine. It's fine, whatever." But it's really true. When we take that moment, like, I think I need to pause here before I go. I think I need to pause here. Or I really am meant to pick this up and take this with me.
Hmm.
We just listen to it, even if it seems a
Yeah.
little crazy or not what you would normally do. Like those are those
And the
moments.
and those moments, it's the little things that lead to the big
It
things.
is, yes.
So I
Mhm,
think we can't devalue those smaller things of grab the book, grab the keys, call this person, do
mhm,
this thing,
mhm,
because all of those little things build to the bigger. And the
mhm,
more we trust it, the more that is given to
mhm.
us because we're
Right.
listening, right?
Mhm.
So they're like, okay, if you keep ignoring, why should they bother to tell you?
Gonna get a little
Right?
quiet,
Yeah, I mean, for the
Yeah.
longest time, I know my spirit guides were like, oh my God, this woman.
Yeah,
But, I used to argue and negotiate and all the things,
yeah,
and
I know.
I never won.
Well, it makes me
But
think, yeah.
now I finally am like, okay.
Yes, I surrender. Oh, listen, it just
I'm
really
like,
makes me
you're
think,
right.
you talk about like valuing the little things. It really makes me think of the abundance, coming back to that concept of our life in general, like the richness of when I can really value these little things. I can value, like, I'm folding laundry, the scent and softness of this laundry, and the abundance of clothes we get to have, rather
It's
than being
so, and
annoyed.
the more grateful you are, the more that shows up to us, right?
Exactly.
And
Right.
too often we focus on what we don't have or what we need and what we want. And I
Yes.
think if we could flip that upside down on its head
Mhm.
and be like, oh my gosh, there's so much food in my refrigerator right now. That is abundant.
Yes.
Where I could look out my window right now and my fig tree is just like
Mhm.
abundant with fruit ready to be picked. That
Mhm.
makes my heart want to explode with happiness. Like
Mhm.
that is abundance.
Mhm.
All of those little things, like you said, clothes. Think about how many people that don't have that. That is
Absolutely.
a beautiful thing to have. And sometimes I've got to play games with myself because I also have an abundance of dirty laundry. And so I have to
Exactly.
flip that switch and be like, okay, it's dirty laundry, but no, look, I have all of these clothes to wash, So you got to
Exactly.
kind of get playful with it, which is a
Mhm.
part of the work I do in my personal and professional practice is it gets to be playful. And
Yes.
I believe that abundance and prosperity and money are attracted to that playfulness.
Absolutely.
Like it
Absolutely.
raises your vibration
Yes.
like
Right.
instantly.
And think about it. Does money want to be like, what kind of friend is money with you? Is it challenging? Does it want to work hard? Like, what does it want? Of course it wants playfulness. Like, how fun
Yeah.
is that, right? It's like, let's go have some fun.
Yeah, and not to hoard it because I think a lot of people get it and they squeeze it and they hold it because they're scared of losing it, and that actually suffocates our abundance and things coming to us. So
Yes.
just being able to be in the place of gratitude, of course, and everybody knows about gratitude practices, but also sharing what we have. To me, that also is an attractor of abundance and wealth. And I know you're an amazing mom, and that's something I try to do even with my son is we make blessing bags and we go and we give things and share. Like we'll be picking the figs and going and giving them to random people.
Mhm.
But just being able to share and how that feels within our physical, emotional, and spiritual body,
Mhm.
it feels so expansive.
Yes.
And when
Expansive.
we expand that way, we've blessed somebody else, we raise their frequency
Mhm.
by gifting, by tithing, by just being generous.
Mhm.
And that opens, it's like the law of the universe. It
Mhm.
creates this circuit
Mhm.
of giving and receiving.
Mhm.
And I believe that that is just, that's the magic secret sauce is it has to be a give and a receive, which also balances out our divine masculine and feminine. So
Right.
it's like when these things are working in harmony, it
Mhm.
just things are smooth and they flow.
Exactly. Yeah. I think about, that image of the channel works in so many ways. Like the channel of money wants to flow. The channel of intuition wants to flow.
Yes.
So that's coming through us. We're like receptive and allowing that to come through. The gifting, it becomes like this beautiful cycle. So we get to be part of that cycle. We're not separate from, we are part of, which we
Yes.
are. Which
It's
we
all
literally
connected.
are.
We are all connected. And I wish the world would start really coming together more and more and more. And we have in the communities that we're creating. And I invite your listeners to spread that love even fuller, because we are sisters and brothers. We are connected. What you do affects me. What I do affects you. And there is this energetic pull. And when we can see each other in that light of lifting each other up, oh my gosh, we can move mountains.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. I couldn't agree with you more. I remember talking to one of our guests, and she had this great Instagram where she was talking about, like, you guys, we could literally just be sitting like in a meadow eating fruit right now, just chilling. Like, what are we doing? This could look like however we want it to. Like,
I'm all in. Let's go. I'll bring the figs.
Do it. Oh my goodness. Well, this is like such a rich and beautiful conversation with you. I'm so glad that we've had the chance to do this together. As we kind of like begin to wrap up this space, I know that there's, ways to find you online, and you probably, I'm sure, have like a gift for the listeners for some resources. Before we get into that, is there any kind of last little nugget you'd love to leave our listeners with before we go?
Okay. You are wealthier than you realize, and you're closer than you think.
Oh, it's so beautiful. Thank you.
And when you doubt that, please call me, because I will remind you over and over again, you are worthy, you are enough, and you're on the edge, and it's there for your taking. You get to have it all. You get to have it all.
I'm just going to put that on my phone, like just a little reminder from Jen all the time. Thank you so much. So where is kind of the best place to find you on the internets?
I'm kind of everywhere these days. So the easiest way to find me, just to find everything, is jenpsano.com/links. And that will be all of my quick links. And that would be an easy way. It's on Instagram and Facebook and all the places. Great. And then there's free resources on my website. So if you want to experience what it feels like to have a channeled message, I have one for abundance specifically there on my website for free. There's rituals and ceremonies and all kinds of things there. And I would love for you to receive that and take those blessings. And then my academy has launched. So there's all kinds of fun things there too. And that's just jenpsano.com/academy.
Beautiful. And we'll have that on the show notes. So thank you. What a wonderful gift for everyone. Well, thank you so much for being here. This has been just really very divine and enriching.
Thank you for having me. Now you got to be on my show.
Let's do it.
The Ecstatic Living Podcast. So we got to get you scheduled.
Yes, we'll do it. We'll do it. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Mwah. Thank you.
Mwah.